Hi this evening and tonight, some mist and fog in the south and southeast overnight with lows of 3 to 6 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball.
In association with Air. Don't miss live Allianz League's GAA action this month on the Air Sport Pack, the home of Irish sport.
This is News Talk.
How's it going? You are very welcome along to Thursday night's Off the Ball. It is Richie McCormack here with you until 10 o'clock. Lots and lots to get through on tonight's show. Namely, we'll be looking at Canelo Alvarez's ban from boxing and speaking to not only Paulie Malignaggi but also Matt Christie, who is the editor of Boxing News. We'll have Thursday Night Football with John Giles just after 7:30, and we'll be talking whether or not Harry Kane's lust for the golden boot has held him back in recent games, and with that FA Cup semi-final with Manchester United on the horizon. Plus, after 8:30, the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer will be talking the incredible life of Bruno Sammartino. A life incredible not just for his long reign in the world of professional wrestling, but also for as a child he escaped the Nazis for living up a mountain for 14 months and managed to emigrate to Italy without a word of English and managed to become the embodiment of the American dream. If you want to get in contact tonight, you can do as ever, 53106 for 30 cents. You can also tweet us at Off the Ball, joined tonight by Dan McDonnell. You're very welcome, Dan, of the Irish Independent.
Hi Richie, how are things?
And Will O'Callaghan is here with the news as well. Will, afternoon, Will.
How are you, Will? How are things?
You see, I'm still thinking it's afternoon. I'm still looking to go look out the window. Yeah, the only reason I'm here is because pretty much everyone else has gone off drinking cans for the night.
Yeah, there's some kind of golf swinery going on as well, isn't
Probably,
there?
yeah. It's just like, get McCormack in, he can manage the next 3 hours. He'll like look.
Looks like he doesn't like the sun. Is that sort of the?
Pretty much.
Is that the
like look at the cue ball head on him. He can't be going outside in that. He'll die instantly. We've got a whole lot more real estate to be reddened between the sunshine and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I suppose the big news of the day being John Walters. Keith Andrews was the lucky son of a gun who got over to Burnley to speak to John Walters and try and clear up, I suppose, his international future, because we've been left in not necessarily limbo, but he's one of those players that we kind of figured would be stepping aside.
Yeah.
And will be fully within his rights as a man of his mid-30s and of his injury profile in the last 18 months to kind of go, do you know what? I'll walk away. It's all right, and follow the likes of Daryl Murphy and follow the likes of Wes Houlihan and just say, I'll let these other young bucks have a go. But Keith went over there in the past couple of days and found out from Johnny Walters and from the man himself that he was going to be sticking around for a while.
You're 35 in September.
Yeah.
Wes is gone. Daryl Murphy's gone. Martin says you can play till you're 64. I'm not sure about that. What are you thinking?
No, look, as long as I'm needed, I'll play. I think I met with Martin not too long. I think I was seeing a specialist down in London. I went to meet him, called him up and spoke to him, and I knew he was staying on, so I said, I think the plan was we were going to get to the World Cup, it was going to be great. I probably would have retired at the end of it.
Finished business, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, Martin O'Neill had said he was going to stay on, but you still hadn't heard from Walters himself, and I guess, when O'Neill had said he would stay on, but there was to see how his injury situation was, because that would be the one concern, that he's practically not played this year, really. He's practically not played since he's gone to Burnley. That's why he wasn't available for the end of the World Cup tilt. And he was the one of all the... we still heard nothing about John O'Shea, and it's safe to assume he won't be in the next campaign. I think Glenn Whelan, whether he retired or not, you get the sense that Martin O'Neill would probably retire him, in the sense that he was probably going to move on because there's options in that position. But Walters was the one that you felt he was the most likely to be involved in the next campaign, and I think we're going to hear more of his interview later on. Yeah. And I think he touched on it in a polite way, that it's probably a position that we're not well stocked. We're short on strikers, and
kind of a worry when a player is openly admitting that one of the contributing factors to me sticking around is there's not that many of me. Well,
he did say, it's not saying there's not anyone coming through, but there is quite a substantial age gap between the strikers that are even in the squad and the ones
experience gap, I guess, as well, because
you've got
Walters and Long, and then you've got a massive jump down to 2 and 3 caps for Scott Hogan and Sean Maguire.
And there's not too much in between. I mean, I see Anthony Stokes in the news today, probably going to get sacked by his club in Greece because he's just gone missing for a week.
Bring us up to speed on that one, because it was news to me until earlier on today. But again, for those who don't know, Anthony Stokes, after his third spell and an ill-fated one at that at Hibs, decided to try his luck in Greece, and it hasn't gone all that well for him.
No, I mean, I suppose some people go on a Greek holiday and, you know, the novelty wears after a period of time, and it seems like he's gone there.
Is that so, Dan? Yeah.
I've never been to Greece on a holiday. I've only been there for working reasons, and 4 days was long enough.
Some of them turned into holidays. Anyway.
He played 4 games for like Apollon Smyrna. I think they're down the bottom of the Greek top flight. And really, he just went missing from their perspective. He didn't turn up at training 1 day, 2 days. That became a story last week. You assume it might just be resolved. But there's a statement from them saying they're now looking at ways to terminate his contract. Anthony Stokes is 29. I'd say 10, 11 years ago, if you had done one of these hypothetical, what will the Ireland team be for World Cup 2018, Stokes would have been centre, he would have been captain. Yeah. You know, he would have been the guy you would have expected to be there. And unfortunately, these incidents of ill discipline are now sort of permanently attached to a CV. It's not just one incident, unfortunately, there's been a couple. So this is the problem that we have. The guys who maybe should be in their prime now haven't really just got to that level. He didn't trust Adam Rooney. There was an underage team years back, which was Stokes, Shane Long, Adam Rooney and Billy Clark in a particularly good age group. Billy Clark's done okay, but just never quite got to that level. Shane Long is there, but we know he has his limitations. So Walters is still incredibly important. And okay, it's a 2-year qualification cycle. It starts off with the Nations League. Okay, next March is when the next really big games are. And I don't think we're in a position now to say that John Walters won't be important then. Whether come Euro 2020 and if Ireland do qualify and he's 37 maybe that year, whether he'll still be first choice then, that's dubious. But we sometimes look at things in 2-year cycles and imagine where someone will be at the end of the campaign. I think that was Wes Houlihan's thinking. What age would he be then? But in the here and now, I think Ireland still needs John Walters.
It's not his fault that he's 35 and still needed by the Republic of Ireland, but he touches on something, and we'll get to it later on in the interview with Keith, whereby he says that, you know, with the Republic of Ireland, players seem to get their chance later. Like, he was 27, I think, by the time he got his first cap, and there are others who are 26, 27, and we've seen it time and time again until they get their first cap. It's surely a salutary lesson to stop us being in this situation 7-8 years down the line where we're relying on a 35-year-old who's barely played for a year, to have people ready to go, to have a conveyor belt of players who've got a number of caps to their name, who've got international football experience to their name, and you can trust in to step in if a player is injured or if a player is missing out.
Yeah, I think certainly, you know, there's been a debate over should you ever include players, say, from League of Ireland or from even League One, and there's lower levels. And the one argument I would have said in favour of Seanie Maguire getting a nod before he went away was the position you were talking about, was the lack of options coming through. And there's an element of trying to fast track someone so that they are that little bit more ready. I think if Sean Maguire had been brought in, you know, last March, last summer, then maybe when it came to September time, it wouldn't have been such a big leap to put him into a squad and to involve him in a game, whereas he still had to go through that sort of that purgatory period, you know, that holding period to get a couple of minutes against Moldova in October when he was in good form then. And it is something going forward and come the summer that if you did have emerging strikers, they're probably going to be in a better place than central midfield and other areas where we are pretty deep in terms of the options that we have. But I don't know how you can really address it. It is the reason that people are later developers, the Irish players are coming through later, it is because their development is on that curve. They're not at the top level when they're younger. They need to go and get games elsewhere, and I don't know, you can fast track them, but then they may not just be ready either, you know, that they naturally mature. John Walters matured later in his career for reasons that he's spoken about just in life as well as in football. And I mean, Keith Andrews is another example. We've plenty of players who've had great careers for Ireland that started at 26.
One of the points as well that jumped out at me yesterday from the PFA teams of the year was the sheer lack of Irish involvement. It took until League Two with 31-year-old Alan Sheehan at Luton before we had a player involved, and that's got to be a worry on some level for O'Neill. Yeah,
I would have thought Matt Doherty was a bit unlucky.
That was the one that jumped out at me as being unlucky.
Bruce gave him a shout, I think, last week, said he was the best right back in the division.
But they played him a lot on the left, and Ryan Sessegnon happens to be a decent left back for Fulham.
Yeah, but he's been more so right, but not even as a wing back rather than a traditional sort of right back. I wouldn't be too alarmed. I mean, we've been well represented in those teams sometimes in recent seasons with Alan Judge and a few others, and it hasn't necessarily like reflected our standing internationally either. But yeah, I am struggling to think now of if you were to sort of sit down and write a list of the outstanding Irish seasons in the UK at any of the divisions. I think Graham Carey's done really well, sort of exposed man for a period of time at League One in Plymouth. He's had a very good season.
Kev was outraged that he didn't get a place in the League One team.
Yeah,
outraged.
Yeah, I think Carey definitely is someone. I've had a couple of people sort of writing or emailing me, the small but little known Plymouth fan club in Ireland who
he's upped his game. Like I'm
gassed,
clearly I would have seen him at Bowes around 2009, 2010
when
direction.
Pat Fenton was there, he was only there for maybe half a season.
But he didn't look much of anything, and they sent him back to Celtic, and people kind of rolled their eyes, kind of thinking, "Oh, this lad's not going to be anything." But he's kind of case in point that if you go back over to England, plug away and keep at it, then you can actually reach a certain...
But he was at Scotland for most of his career, actually, and then he actually only went to England to join Plymouth when maybe Plymouth were even in League Two. That might have been his first avenue into England. But he is one now that I think he's 28. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that in a year's time he's around the Ireland squad. I mean, even Wes himself. Like, how old was Wes when he really got his, other than his first cap against Colombia at that time?
And you're going to get me emotional now.
No, okay.
Yeah,
we don't need that. The heat just brings that out, and people even more so.
Yeah. Although somebody on the heat says, Dan needs to get some sunshine, lads. Lads, get yourself outside to the nearest canal and hydrate. That's from Colin.
Yeah.
You were just back from your holidays.
I wasn't on any holidays. Actually, I was in Turkey, which was flagged as a holiday, and it was disappointingly moderate temperatures all the way through. We were shafted on that front.
Unlucky. I feel terrible for you.
Yeah, and listen, I might get out to the golf course in the morning and burn accordingly.
Right, grand. We are here with Thanks to Air, the home of Air Sport. Get amazing live sporting content with free Air broadband. Will, there's not loads, but there's pretty significant live football on this evening.
Yeah, I suppose a rare Thursday night Premier League. 2 games tonight, massive game for Southampton particularly. They desperately need to win tonight if they're to avoid relegation from the Premier League. 5 points adrift of safety, just 4 games left after tonight. They're at Leicester. Southampton making 5 changes from their defeat against Burnley at the weekend. The Leicester team news as well, bad news for them. Kasper Schmeichel and Shinji Okazaki are both out through injury, but Wilfred Ndidi is back from suspension. It was a very rare start for Kelechi Iheanacho as well. He starts for just the 4th time this season. Those changes for Southampton, they're unchanged from the 3-2 defeat to Chelsea at the weekend. And the good news for them as well is that Steve Davis, their captain, is back among the bench again. He's been out for a few weeks with an Achilles injury. But a game Southampton have to win.
It's a game that Southampton have to win, Dan. It's also a game that they have to manage their squad because they've got a cup semi-final on Sunday, which ultimately, and it sounds strange to say it, they probably don't need at this time of year. Yeah,
it is like they're... Okay, like the parachute payments and stuff like that make things a bit easier for clubs going down, but at the same time, the clubs that are coming up this year potentially, aren't the teams that come down from last year. You can just see how a club can go and just sink into it. Even sort of, Sunderland are an extreme case, but even someone like Norwich who went down a couple of years ago, you would have thought they might be okay, and then you miss out once and you struggle. So they have a very good production line there, and you think if they do go down, maybe they could be equipped to deal with it quite well. The bottom mightn't fall out of the club completely, but yeah, in terms of the general point, in terms of the weekend, you don't want to be another Wigan, really. Yeah. I think this is probably a much bigger game tonight than Sunday's is, no matter how you sort of pitch it in any way. And I'm not sure that they've had big games in recent years. I don't know how their fans are feeling, but I'd imagine they're probably more captivated by this one at the moment than
they've been geared in such a way. Like you mentioned, the parachute payments have been geared in such a way that, and it's probably something we get into a little bit deeper later on. You look at through that side, the James Ward-Prowse's, Oriel Romeu's, Dusan Tadic's, Emil Højbjerg even, and Wesley Hood. These are players that they were engineered to maybe get the squad that they had 2 years ago, maybe up to a Europa League or a European qualification spot. They're going to go, let's be honest, if they go down to the Championship.
You would have thought so.
And they'll need to rebuild on a level that maybe some other sides that go down this season won't have to.
You would have thought so. I mean, I don't know what sort of clauses they have with some of the players. Maybe 1 or 2 of the younger, like the Ward-Prowse and people like that might stick around and give 1 season a crack. But yeah, you would have thought like they have the potential. They're a selling club anyway. I mean, they're in this position ultimately because they've been a selling club within the Premier League over a period of time. So once they go down, they're probably not going to dramatically change that strategy. They have shown some signs of sort of mild encouragement in recent weeks in certain games. That they definitely against Arsenal they could have got more out of that game. But there have been matches under Hughes where you can see there's been a small improvement. But I think tonight, I know like Leicester, there's a sort of they're petering towards the end of the season as much as they had sort of a European chance. This is probably a good game for them. This is the time where some fixtures that look difficult on paper aren't maybe as difficult when clubs that have very little to play for start to drift away interest-wise, and maybe this could be the right time to catch them.
Yeah, that Leicester side, particularly the back, has the air of let's give some people some games before the season ends. Will
Chelsea obviously have one eye on their FA Cup semi-final at the weekend as well. They made 6 changes from the team that came back to beat Southampton 3-2 at the weekend. One of them enforced after Marcus Alonso picked up a 3-game ban for his stamp on Shane Long at the weekend. He will miss the FA Cup semi-final, tonight's game, and their match against Swansea in a week's time as well. Those changes, seeing players come in like Moses is going to play at left back tonight. Bakayoko and Emerson get starts in midfield. And interestingly enough, when there's been a kind of a switch between Morata and Giroud, they made the decision to play Morata and Giroud up front together with Pedro on the wing. That means both Willian and Eden Hazard are on the bench for Chelsea tonight. Should give some hope to Burnley, who are trying to win their 6th game in a row, a chance to go up to 6th place as well and leapfrog Arsenal if they do so. They're unchanged from the team that beat Leicester City at the weekend. So Burnley very much on the crest of a wave. Plenty of Irish players involved tonight as well. You look at Long and Ward in their back 4, and they're obviously on the best run in the Premier League at the moment, Richie.
John Walters as well, as we heard, he's going to stay on, but some sad news from the world of racing today, Will. Yeah, jockey Robbie Power has been leading the tributes this evening. He says he's devastated by the passing of the 2017 Irish Grand National winner R. Duke, who suffered a fatal heart attack today. Power was actually on the horse as they were working towards Punchestown this morning. He was also on board the then Novice when it won the Ferryhouse showpiece last season, and he says the 8-year-old was one of the best horses he's ever ridden. He's added it's especially devastating for trainer Jessica Harrington and the owners, the Cooper family, there as well. Yeah, remarkably unexpected news. I know the Cheltenham performance wasn't great, just February just gone, or March just gone, but yeah, sad news.
Yeah, I mean, the Irish Grand National last year was a sensational performance and one that made you really excited about what the horse could achieve this year, and didn't manage to do that for whatever reason. You wonder with these things, was there ever any problem there throughout, or what it was? Because it happens all the time. I mean, horses drop dead in their stable or in their yard, but when it's such a high class one, it's pretty gutting for all connections. I've been down to Harrington Yard before, and it was a great operation there, and they love their good horses. So this will rip the heart out of the place for a couple of days. Another departure from Ulster on the horizon, Will? Yeah, the scrum half Paul Marshall is going to retire from professional rugby at the end of the current season. He's been at his home province for 12 seasons, racking up 204 caps, won 3 caps for Ireland as well. He says he's sad to leave behind a massive part of his life in rugby, but feels the time is right to seek new challenges away from the game. Luke McGrath is expected to miss Leinster's Champions Cup semi-final against the Scarlets this Saturday, which is live and off the ball. The scrum half is still struggling with an ankle injury, which would mean a start in the 9 shirt for Jameson Gibson Park. That's when the decision would have to come in for Leo Cullen, because Scott Fardy is expected to start in the pack, and that could mean their winger James Lowe would be left out under the non-European rule, which means you can only use 2 of those players. Yeah, Liam Toland, Keith Wood and Dave McIntyre will be at the Aviva on Saturday for live and exclusive coverage of Leinster and Scarlet. Text in from Anonymous, and put your name to these, because this is some sage advice, I think, from this Anonymous texter saying, don't be jealous of Joe with his shirt off and his belly out in the sun, lads. Be optimistic. Just remember, it's a bag of cans, not a bag of cans. That's profound. Very profound. Isn't it? Yeah. It's lovely. Yeah. It's a decent job that I pronounced it correctly as well. Are we jealous of Joe? Dead trouble. Are we jealous of Joe? No, not really. I mean, he's being a golf nerd somewhere, so he's probably having a discussion about like his putting somewhere. He's one of these people who people nodding and listening to that discussion and going. Joe Malloy, without wanting to tell tales out of school now, Joe Malloy is now one of these people who will practice his swing in the office. I've seen him do it like he's Johnny Carson after telling a joke. That's the travelator to middle age right there. That's where you're getting there. If his large selection of cardigans wasn't that already, then surely Joe practicing the swing. The warning signs. Yeah, they're there and they're many. Will, news of Munster as well ahead of their semi-final. Yeah, interesting. They could leave Simon Zebo in reserve for their clash with Racing 92 in Bordeaux on Sunday. The Irish Examiner reported that Andrew Conway is back and will get the nod at full back. Keith Earls fit again on one wing, and then Johan van Gran will pick between Darren Sweetenham and Alex Wootton on the other wing. So a big call to be made in terms of Zebo there. Mark Selby will be kicking off his World Snooker Championship title defence against Joe Perry in round 1. He'll begin his campaign on Saturday at the Crucible. 5-time winner Ronnie O'Sullivan, he's been drawn against Stephen Maguire. Irish interest all resting on Antrim's Mark Allen. He'll play against Liam Highfield in the first round. We're left bereft of someone to cheer on the snooker. Feels weird. Yeah. It's just Mark Allen really, and that's
That's it.
You'll find someone to latch on to at some point.
I don't know. It's like you like to have the proper Irish involvement, of more than just somebody left out there on their own. I mean, Kendo was kind of the lone wolf for a while, and we've got this,
The odd Fergal O'Brien run would sort of illuminate things.
Yeah, well, keep us up until 3 o'clock in the morning with a Fergal O'Brien match, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
But I suppose poor Mark Allen, just feel bad for him. So he needs some company out there.
Yeah. I think he'll do okay, won't he?
Fingers
crossed. My limit, that's my snooker knowledge, just exposed.
He's world top 10, he'll be fine well.
They've announced the American football games for London next year as well. Seattle Seahawks against the Oakland Raiders will be the first game at Tottenham's new stadium. It'll kick off that visit to London with the match being played on the 14th of October. Wembley's got some interesting games. You've got the Titans against the Chargers, and then the Eagles will take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville have been very much a team almost residents in London the last few years. Leash is actually, he's going to make history at the weekend as well. He will play 150 AFL games, just the 4th Irishman to ever do so, when he plays for Geelong against Port Adelaide. It's also too his 120th game in a row, which is the longest run of any active player in the league.
Good stuff, Will. More from Will as the night progresses and updates from those 2 live Premier League games. But on the way, we will be talking Canelo Alvarez's ban from boxing with Paulie Malignaggi, The Incredible Life of Bruno Sammartino with Dave Meltzer. But on the way next, it is Thursday Night Football with John Giles.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
In association with Air. Watch every UEFA Champions League and Europa League game on the Air Sport Pack.
Think you've got what it takes to become one of the next Aldi suppliers? Down to Business and Bobby's Late Breakfast on News Talk have teamed up with Aldi in partnership with Bord Bia to showcase the best food and drink suppliers Ireland has to offer. Not only will you benefit from a supplier mentoring and development programme, but you'll also have the chance to get your product on the shelves of 130 Aldi stores nationwide. To enter, simply submit the entry form at newstalk.com/grow with Aldi before April 30th and tune in to Down to Business Saturday mornings from 10 and Bobby's Late Breakfast Sunday mornings from 9 on News Talk for more details.
Grow with Aldi in partnership with Bord Bia, proudly supported by News Talk.
Hertz means car rental, right? But Hertz also means car sales. The Hertz sale means a massive range of cars, unmissable bargains, finance options with zero cash deposit and €2,000 minimum scrappage on trade-ins. Call into our showrooms in Dublin and Cork or online at hertzcarsales.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Have you ever dreamt of playing with your friends on a Premier League pitch? Well, now you can. Carling, the official beer of the Premier League, is giving you and 4 friends the chance to follow in the footsteps of the world's best players and play on a Premier League pitch. To enter the draw for this incredible prize, check out Carling Ireland on Facebook. Carling, bringing fans closer to the Premier League. Terms and conditions apply. Entrants must be 18 years of age or over to enter. For further information, visit drinkaware.ie.
Get free business broadband with Magnet Voice. See magnetnetworks.com. Terms and conditions apply.
As the dog of the house, I know exactly what my family are thinking. Right now, they're convinced I am upset they're heading off on holidays. Me? Upset? Yeah, right. They have